Hello, Sean here, and I've got my helpers with me today. We're going to be doing some stair treads and risers. We're recapping these bad boys, and well, actually, boy and girl, but we're not recapping them. We're recapping the treads and the risers. The dogs that we've got here at home are kind of on the biggish side, so they can really do a number on your elbow with their tongue, or they can they can tear up your stair treads, especially if they're going up and down them a lot, as these guys sometimes do. We're going with a product, an engineered product called NextStep, and we'll put the link on the screen, I think, so you can see how to find them online. This product is available at Lowe's, and price-wise, it's not too terrible. We were originally looking at Capitread, and two things. The price was a bit prohibitive, and Capitread, while they once made a product for the larger, the thicker stair treads, like the 1 3/4 that we have here, they don't make that anymore. Or at least if they do, we haven't been able to find it. They only have the 1 inch at this point. So they lost us at price, but they would have lost us at availability. And I just stumbled into, just dumb luck, found somebody who had a bunch of this to sell and just bought enough to do the staircase going to the basement and this one as well. And as you can see, I've already done the bottom 2 stairs. Did those last night. Was not hard to do. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But first off, a caveat. I am not a professional DIY or home improvement contractor. I do the stuff in my home, and that's it. I don't do it professionally outside of my home. I don't let anybody pay me to do it because, well, I don't frankly have the experience or the training to do that. Long story short, if you think that you need to find out how the professionals do it, stop watching this video and search YouTube. You'll see a whole bunch of them out there. I'm not a professional, and if you're not a professional, if you're a homeowner like me and you think, I don't have the first clue how to begin a job like this, call a contractor. Look through Angie's List, see who everybody else is recommending. Call those folks and pay them to do it, because you'll be much happier in the end result, and you'll probably have all of your fingers and toes and everything when you're done. But if you do have a lot of tools like I do, and you're kind of savvy with this stuff, and you think, well, I can do this safely, I can at least do it without hurting myself, then feel free to have at it. There's a big box retail chain where I buy most of my materials and some of my tools, and their slogan is, "You can do it, we can help." Now, if truth in advertising laws were strictly enforced, they would probably have to say, "We can sell you a bunch of stuff, and hopefully you can do it without hurting yourself." Okay, let's get started. I'm going to put down my coffee, and we're going to take a look at what I did yesterday before bedtime with the bottom 2 stairs here. Now, first, a note on the sequence of installation. As I grab the little sample piece of stair tread, the riser at the bottom goes in first. First the riser, then the tread on top of the riser, then the next tread, then the next riser, and so forth. Don't mess this up, because you'll be very unhappy with the results if you do. Fortunately, that's one thing I've not messed up yet, and maybe you'll get to see me make some other mistakes, but that has not been one of them. The riser needs to sit underneath the tread, behind the nose, behind the cove molding. That unifies everything. It's a pretty good look, and structurally, it's a lot more solid than if you do it the other way. Now, this NextStep product, it's kind of hard to say, but it's really a great product. I did the scratch test on it using a couple of tools, and it was, compared to other products in the price range, it was pretty impressive to see how well it resisted scratches. My only concern with this is it is pretty slick. It's a very smooth surface, and I'm afraid that one of my older dogs is going to have a hard time coming down the stairs, so we might have to add some traction enhancing product to this when we're done. We'll figure it out, but it's going to be we're going to be watching her closely for the first couple of days once this product is fully installed. You might notice we've got a little landing here at the bottom of the staircase, and that's pretty common in a lot of modern homes, where you've got the staircase coming down, it hits a little landing, makes a turn, and continues. not a lot of videos on YouTube, either by professional contractors or homeowners or really anyone, that address how to deal with this, and I was researching that. That was the first question I had when I was planning this project. What do I do with this? Do I put a giant stair tread on top of it there, a great big piece of hardwood? You know, it costs several $100s, and if you've got the money, maybe that's something you want to do, but for me, the solution was to treat it as its own floor. It's only a couple of square feet, but it is its own floor. And we're going to put down the luxury vinyl plank that is going up in the loft, so it's all tied together and it matches. It's going to have a nosing piece added onto it in the front that's going to overlap the final riser. But before we put that riser in, what I'm going to do is show you how we address the original lumber with the noses. Now you might notice we don't have a nose here. That's because I cut it off. I cut the noses off of the original lumber on these two bottom steps as well, and I'm going to be doing that shortly on the remaining stairs. And there are two ways to go about this. You can either cut the noses off, or you can leave them on and add about an inch of filler lumber to bring the surface of your original risers out to match the front surface of your nose. And you know, that's one way to go about it. I think for the amount of materials involved and the amount of labor involved, I'm actually a little further ahead by cutting off the noses. Plus it's a little more structurally solid, I think, because I'm not dealing with the remnants of those little those roundovers of the bull nose. So I actually have a more or less flat surface that I can glue to with my riser. So let's take a look and see how we go about cutting off the noses on the original lumber. Okay, before we start cutting anything, we're going to need a couple of tools. We need some sort of a measuring device and also a marking device. And if you're as old as I am, you probably need a seeing device. Yeah, reading glasses are certainly helpful here. The objective here is to get an accurate depth of the distance between the face of the nose and the face of the adjacent riser. And that is going to vary a little bit from stair to stair. No matter how well built your staircase may be, you shouldn't make the assumption that they're all the same, because I'm here to tell you they're not. And we're going to use our measuring device here, in this case a corner angle, a right angle iron, call it what you will. And what I'm seeing here at this point in the tread is a depth of 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to check it over here as well at the very end, and it's pretty close to 7/8, not quite 7/8, just a hair under. And here I'm seeing 7/8, and oh, here it's getting closer to 15/16. And when I get down to the very end here, yep, 15/16 of an inch. So what I'm going to have to do is come back from the face of this nose at this end. I'm going to go back 15/16 of an inch, and I'm going to put a mark right there at 15/16. And at the other end, I'm going to go back 7/8 of an inch from the face of the tread, and I'm going to put a mark right about there. All right, so we have the ends of a line. And now here for my straight edge, I'm using a piece of 1x3 lumber that I have ripped so that it is perfectly straight, and I've cut it to 2.5 inches shorter than my 33-inch stair width. This is, of course, 30.5 inches long, and the reason I cut it that short, or that long if you prefer, will become apparent once we start cutting our stair risers and our treads. But for right now, I'm just using it as a straight edge to connect these segments with my marking tool. A graphite pencil if you prefer. And here we have a nice solid black line And when the sawdust starts flying and covers up that line, you will appreciate that it's nice and fat and black so that you can follow it and not get totally lost and wind up cutting too far into your tread or not far enough. So now what we have here on top is a line that should line up pretty well with the face of the riser underneath. And the next thing we're going to do is cut it. And appearing as if out of nowhere is a common 12 amp, 7.5 inch handheld rotary saw, which is plugged in. So what I'm going to do here, because this does not have to be an extremely precise cut, it just has to be in the ballpark so that we can remove the nose, and then everything is going to get covered up by the new riser and tread. I'm going to line my blade up, and I'm going to start as far as I can down at this end. Obviously, I can't get the whole way to the very end of the tread. The saw will not allow me to do that, but I'll come in to clean up those ends using a manual dovetail saw and a hammer and a chisel. But I'll get about as close as I can to the very end here. I'm going to line up my blade with my cut line, and I'll be following the cut line as well as I can. Let's see how I do. There we go. You can see we made a little sawdust. Sorry about that. But we've stuck pretty close to our cut line here. Drifted in maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so, but that's okay. As I'm looking down through the cut, I can see that I have gotten as far as the face of the original riser, and maybe a hair deeper than that, and that's good. I don't want this riser, when I'm done with it, I don't want the lumber coming out past the face of the riser. If the tread lumber is a little bit behind it, that's okay, because once the riser goes on, the new riser plate, it needs to not be pushed forward by the original tread lumber. Anyway, now that we've made the cut with the rotary saw, we can go ahead and take our dovetail saw and finish off the ends. You can see I've already started on the end cut here. And as I may have mentioned earlier, I like to get this blade down to about 3/8 to 1/2 inch before I bring in the chisel and knock the nose off of the rest of the tread. And we do this at both ends, of course, and it takes a little bit of negotiating. One thing I like to do also is flip the blade around and then come at it from underneath so that we've got the beginnings of a clean cut at the top and the bottom. And having made the cuts at the bottom and the top, the last thing I need to do before this side is finished is to bring my dovetail over to the side, and I want to cut flush up against the stringer, straight back from the front of the nose, all the way to the point where the top and the bottom cuts are going to intersect with the side cut. And you might want to notice I'm using a thumb here to press the front end, in this case the bottom end, of my dovetail blade right up against the stringer so that my cut is as flush as can be. Okay, so we have just finished the side cut on the right side with our dovetail saw. And at this point, I can go ahead and drive this handy chisel right about the end of where I made the saw cut is where I want to start it. And just a couple gentle taps with the hammer. And there's our nose. So with the front of the nose removed, I now can just take my chisel and my hammer, and you see I've got a little bit of excess left on the front of this nose here where it didn't break off entirely, and I don't want to leave that, because if I leave that there, then when I put the riser plate on, it's going to be getting pushed forward, and I'm not going to have a clean cohesion between the original and the new riser plate. So we take the chisel and get up along the rotary saw cut. Give it a little tap and just work off the excess. Now, having gotten the last of that nose off of the front of this tread, so we've got a nice, smooth, even plane that comes right up off of the adjacent riser and continues right through the tread. Nice, clean transition there. Now would be a good time to clean up the sawdust so we're not tracking it all over the house.